I'm not a minute late. I know that's not right for me. I'm normally on the dot. A whole minute late. Hello. This is Brandy Rose Smith live from the Forbidden Library. And today, we'll probably get to the end of Cat-a-tonic. And it will become one of my 10,000 books. And it'll be great. Now here's the part I dread. Trying to summarize 71% of a book before we get into it so we can do a catch-up. Also, with how wild this book has been, I don't know what details to miss out and what details are important. So, here's my best shot at. Got our main dude. Our main dude works in the archive of a pharmaceutical company called Wonderland Pharmaceuticals. Sounds sus already, doesn't it? This place was built over a prison, so the archive he looks after is literally a former prison. Very spooky, very scary. His fiance works more in the labs. He's working on some awesome science genetic splicing madness that will get her the attention of the CEO. But when she went to hand in her project, the CEO wasn't interested. He was interested in something else. The CEO had gone to see Mr. in the archive and asked him to purchase some really weird chemicals and get it to him as soon as possible. So he did, because, like, who's going to say no to the big boss? The big boss of Wonderland Pharmaceuticals, who dresses all in green, like a certain Wizard of Oz, and has a henchman called Solomon, who is a big, silent brick shithouse. All very fairy tale and all very sus. So he orders this. Oh, he also found a book in the archives that gave him an electric shock, a little red book. When he tried to open it, it just gave him this electric shock. It's really weird. And the book keeps having the pages disappear and reappear, and it's all very confusing. So he orders the chemicals, he goes home with the magic book that actually has some fun little science experiments in, and he's like, I want to give these a go, they sound like a lot of fun. What could possibly go wrong? So they get home, his wife's like, sure, we can do it, but we need to follow a proper safety procedure. Because she's a lab tech, she knows what she's doing. However, he does not follow proper safety procedure, and after the strange chemical appears at his house that he was told to get, he takes most of it back to his boss like he was supposed to, but he misses one vial, and conveniently, he needs that for the potion that he was about to make. So he tries to go to sleep for the day, because they say they'll do it tomorrow, and he can't sleep, so he gets up to do said potion. And yeah, as you know, what could possibly go wrong with doing potions in the middle of the night? As he's about to finish the potion, his fiance comes down, the beautiful cat Purlion gets in the way, and boom, boom, kaboom, everything's covered in smoke. They pass out, and they wake up and there's some paramedics there. They've had to air out, and they don't know what they've been doing, but they're safe, they're alive, but he keeps hearing a voice in his head and seeing random images and doesn't know what it is. Until he goes inside, and eventually it clicks. The voice he's hearing and the images are his cat trying to communicate. Purloin is communicating via voices and images. So like when he says vet, he gets this image of this horrible, wrinkly monster and things like that. So things from Purloin's perspective. It's really cool. And his wife comes down and suddenly, like, she's been wearing glasses her whole time, and suddenly she takes them off and she can see! And then the cat runs under her and she somehow does a backflip out of nowhere. Turns out they may or may not have bonded with the cat. May or may not have. So they go through the book they've got to see if they can find an explanation or a way to undo it, and mostly the book just says, don't bond with a cat. They're very unpredictable. And I think that's about where we finished off. If there's anything else that I think I need to fill in, I'll do it as we're reading. But let's get started then with chapter 13, Cat-a-day morning. The next morning I awoke tucked into my bed, as if I had been there all night. Purloin and Alana were nowhere to be seen, and I could no longer smell any of the acid chemicals from our experiment. Was it all a dream? Still groggy, I lay still and listened to the quiet morning. It was so silent I could hear my heartbeat. As I stayed in my warm bed, other sensations grew in intensity. The soles of my feet tingled, as if I had cut off circulation. A faint rhythmic pulsing ran up my legs, like an echo of my heartbeat, only quicker and smaller. Thinking I needed to get out and stretch, I winced as a sharp pain shot up my foot the moment I touched the floor. My ankle was covered with, while it happened to be in my dream, could also have been just a foggy memory. My ankle was covered, which was... Purlion enjoyed random attacks. My arms and shins were covered in tiny slashes. A vicious assault to my ankle would not be unprecedented. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary in our bedroom, but once I reached the bottom of the stairs, I began wondering if I was still dreaming. Every one of my senses seemed to be under attack. The curtains, normally drawn for privacy, were wide open and sending the too bright morning sun. Several items sizzled and popped on the stove, and timers ticked down. If I had not gotten up when I did, the barrage of alarms would have woken me, and anything dead within a 1 mile radius. Everything smelled wonderful, and my stomach growled in anticipation. Placing a hand over my stomach, I pressed the sensation down. Not that Alana's cooking was bad, per se. She had made significant progress since she first started practicing. She'd graduated from making ramen and toast to reheating leftovers. Big steps, big steps. Alana considered cooking something she could master, like she had done with laboratory work. It's just science of a different type, she would tell me. Follow the recipe and adjust when needed. However, theory and execution were two different things. Often her meals came in one of two flavors, burned or boiled to paste. Of course, I would say none of these things out loud. After all, she could start the coffee maker with the best of them. Alana? My groggy voice was lost in the cacophony of noise. What's going on? What are you doing? While I could barely hear myself, her head snapped towards me. Hey there, sleepyhead, Alana called from the kitchen, flipping the contents of the frying pan. We were wondering if you were going to be We were wondering if you were going to sleep all day. Lazy. Purlion agreed, looking up from his breakfast for a moment to send me his opinion of my sleeping schedule. Says you. You're a cat. You sleep all day. Highlights included my posture, my breathing technique, and the depth and length of my naps, including how ugly I was while doing so. As I looked at him, that tingling sensation returned, but now it was focused on my forehead. The pulse was stronger now but not louder. This was all too much to take in. First, I did not know what had Alanya so wound up this early in the morning. I can read. I do this every week. What do you want about? Then there was the actual confirmation that my cat could talk in my head. Finally, I learned that by cat standards, I was ugly. Not the best way to start my day. It's quite a barrage. Come on, mouse. Work with me! There we go. What's going on? How did I get in bed last night? I carried you up, she said in a matter-of-fact tone. I woke up in the middle of the night and you were down here with your head on the table. I tried to wake you, but you were out cold. So I picked you up and got you to bed. You carried me. Alana, didn't you think that was a little strange? Not that you're weak or anything, but I'm not exactly light. Alana stopped her frantic pacing and looked at me. There was a flicker of realization in her eyes. Hey, Luke, hello. Nice to see you. How are you? That is odd, she muttered, giving her head a shake. She turned her attention to me. I've been feeling stronger since I went to bed. I guess I thought it was just being rested and getting a good grip on you. Weird that I didn't consider that until now. I wonder what... Things are good with me. Yeah, good things. I'm excited to read this book. Outside the house, a squirrel was scaling the nearby tree, and she turned her head towards it. Oh no, she's turning into the cat! Purlion jumped at the window, seeking to kill the prey, but only hitting the glass with a dull thump. I don't know if I have I have this. I think that's the closest we're getting to the dull thump. The squirrel darted further up the tree and out of view. With the distraction gone, she gave her head another shake and set down a plate of food in front of me that could have fed a family, along with a giant novelty cup filled with coffee. Come on, eat up. We're going for a jog. Can't waste the morning. It's the best time to be awake. Eat, eat, eat. No worries. Aren't you going to have anything? I mean, there is no way I can eat all this. Stabbing a sausage the size of 2 fingers, I gave her a suspicious look. When did you become a morning person? Instead of replying, she walked back to the kitchen and started moving dishes into the sink. Bracing myself, I prepared to take a bite. My teeth bit down, and my eyes shot open. Alana, this is good! It tastes like... Like what? She leveled her gaze at me. I chose my words carefully, then shoveled as much scrambled egg and toast into my mouth as I could. My words were a jumble of confused consonants. Like I was drunk, like a drunk. Woogie garling syrup. When I was able to swallow it all, I gave her an appreciative nod. So yeah, that's what I was saying. Anyway, what did you do with these eggs? There's something different about them. I just seasoned them to taste and added seasonings as they smelled right. Because she has cat senses now. She can smell the correct tastiness. I never would have pinned that on cat powers. Now every time there's a cat girl or something in an anime, I'm going to assume that they're good at cooking. Or that they're very good at seasoning food. She moved around the room, cleaning the dishes and putting them away in a blur. How much coffee have you had? I asked, eyeing my drink suspiciously. None for me. I woke up full of energy. I grabbed some breakfast and then just felt compelled to do something. It's a beautiful new day. The sun is up and the birds are singing. Purlion ran back to the window at the mention of flying creatures. My brain pulsed as I remembered what birds were. It was like I was being asked to translate or define the term, but the requester just took the information straight from my head. Weakness, the cat commented. I saw how he viewed birds, as tiny morsels that flew because they were too weak to stay on the ground or climb with claws like a cat would. Instead, birds fluttered around singing songs, which Purlion assumed translated to confessions of their inferiority to cats. The only explanation to bird song, obviously. Before I could question the logic of any species bragging about its inferiority, Alana came back to the table, stabbing a few bites of food off my plate. I was thinking we could go for a jog and enjoy the beautiful weather. Who knows what we might find? There was a look in her eyes, excitement mixed with wild abandon. Purloin sent me a sensation of approval, like Alana was finally meeting his expectations for morning energy levels. Taking a tentative sip of coffee, I began eating again. Even after all my efforts and Alana dipping in, it was still a mountain of food. Who are you, and what have you done with my Alana? You hate working out. She shrugged. I just feel energetic. I need to do something. Anything. I still have so much food. No matter how much I ate, the amount never seemed to decrease. Is there a reason you made so much? Was it going to expire? Alana laughed, a haunting dismissive sound. Don't be silly. I just figure if we have food, why not eat it? No need to leave it in the fridge. This is exactly how Purloin thinks. Oh no. Okay, but doesn't this all seem a little odd? We both know you're not a morning person, yet you got up and cooked a banquet-sized meal. It is onion, indeed. That's a good point. I should probably... Yeah! It's pretty Tito is, but they'll do! It's cat time! The side of my face tingled, and I saw Purloin looking at me, or more specifically, at my plate of food. He shifted in place, eager to approach and share in my bounty. However, there seemed to be an aura of measured patience, as if there were protocols Purloin was adhering to, until I broke my line of sight with the food. No, buddy. No? Purloin tilted his head and sent me images of how he interpreted the world. There was the time I pulled him away from a bag of chips, and he cried out in protest. Next, when he was moved off a counter so we could put down the groceries. Finally, I saw Alana taking a piece of plastic the cat had been chewing on. His anger and disappointment at our interference were justifiable reasons to use that word. No was a command to show frustration, not an excuse to deny Purloin what he wanted. The very idea of me, as a mere human, having any authority to prevent a cat's demands was unthinkable. No, I repeated, and Purlion dropped back on all fours and slinked away. The back of my head ached, and I could feel his eyes upon me as he sent me a series of images about his displeasure. I thought about spraying him with the can of condensed air I keep at my computer, and felt a wave of agitation come from Purloin. And his attention must have moved around the room as the tingling in my head shifted with Purloin's focus. The cat is attempting to show this human his place, but the human is not backing down. Scream thing! Not seeing the can, Purloin seemed confused. He recalled how often I had gotten him off counters or spooked him away from something with a quick spray of air. I had never aimed at him as a simple, quick burst was enough to cause him to run. As I thought about his reactions, I kept eating. It was just a hypothetical, Purloin, not real. Just me imagining what I could do. Imagine? This concept caused Purloin to settle, but he kept his head moving as he watched for the threat. The wheels of his mind turning to process what that word meant and apply it to feline logic. Threat, he purred, seeing now that I was not warning him that the can was present, but that I might use it to prove my dominance. Showing superiority was something Purloin respected, and he settled down for a nap. Not quite a threat, just using my imagination to show you something I might do. Dumb. Purloin sighed, illustrating his point by showing me how he thought I looked whenever I spoke. He had no patience for my explanations, and found no worth in hearing anything more. Oh good. Oh good, you finished eating! Alana hopped down the stairs, now wearing a neon pink outfit that would have fit perfectly in a 1980s movie. Clean up your plate and we can go! To my shock, she was right. While I was talking to Purloin, I had consumed everything on my plate, but I did not feel bloated or ready to fall into a food coma. Instead... Wait. Oi! Oi! What have I told you? What have I told you about being nice? Oi. How many times have I told you? How many times then you still do this? Still disrespect, kind of respect me, but have the Uno card. It's what you deserve. Stop. Stop it. Right now. I'm just reading. I'm reading! You're cool. Look, you've been Uno reversed. You're cool. Haha. Everything you say is about yourself now. Ha 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 ha. Get Uno'd. I was satisfied enough for now, but also felt like I could eat more if it was offered. Soon, I was full of energy and jumped to my feet. As I washed the dishes, things around me started taking on a more real and grounded feeling. I must have been much hungrier than I thought. Are you coming? Alana called, leaning out the front door. No, I'm still waking up. I want to read over that experiment again, see what happened to us. I'm surprised you aren't the one asking these questions. Maybe we should go to the doctor's office and get checked out. Alana winced at my words, looking like she had tasted something foul. It's not that I don't think it's important or anything. I just feel good right now, and I want to enjoy it. Besides, what is a doctor going to tell us that the paramedics last night wouldn't have seen? I feel like they could do a lot. You sure you aren't feeling at least a little strange? I mean, I'm talking to a cat and you have more energy than you've had in years. Something has changed. She sighed, stretching to her limits. That all sounds so boring. And I don't want to. Let's have fun. It's been a long week. And now we need to take it easy. Do I wish cats could talk? Yeah, no, I don't know. I had a cat. It lives with my parents now, unfortunately. Mainly because it can't live with me anymore. But she's a very vocal kitty cat. And I feel like if she could talk and actually yell at me, food! Food! Fast! Leave me alone! Then it would be even more annoying than she already is. I love her, don't get me wrong, and I love vocal cats a lot. But good lord, is it like sometimes when I'm trying to sleep and the cat's like, how dare you close the door? Are you alive? Ah! So, let me sleep, cat, please. I also think a lot of them would choose not to. Because, like, if they're trying to push stuff off and they know they're trying to be sneaky around you and they're going to push it off the table, going to push that glass off the table and they're going to look at you straight at it and still not say a word. They're still going to be little shits. It'll be great. She sighed, stretching to her limits. But, oh, that sounds so boring. Yes. Let's have fun. It's been a long week and now we need to take it easy. Purlion sniffed at the door, planning his escape while we were distracted. They are wonderful. Cats are wonderful. I love my cats so goddamn much. She's a big fuzzy wuzzy moody batch and I love her. You just have to earn their trust and get kind of good at reading their feelings a little bit, I feel like. Because you just kind of know when to stop, you know when to pet. And they get wild and as silly as dogs do too. They're wonderful. I love cats. I love them so much. While we never forbade him from going into the courtyard, Alana and I wanted to ensure we were around in case he got into a fight with one of the neighborhood cats or dogs. Oh god, yeah, that's a risk. Purlion, I said, causing him to jump and share his feelings of surprise with me. It seemed he truly believed he, a large white cat, blended into the background of tan walls and thus was invisible to the human eye. Can you go with her? Purlion sat, pretending he had stopped to take a bath and thus could not have possibly caused any trouble. He gave his paw several long licks and started rubbing his ears. Only after 3 full strokes of his ear did he look at me with his mismatched eyes. Hunt? This was followed by a montage of Purlion chasing toys and laser pointers. Plus all those times he nearly caught birds outside the closed window. Sure, it's like hunting, just stay close to Alana and don't wander off. Realizing I wouldn't be joining her, Alana started down the steps of our home. Come on, Purlion! She started at a sprint, and he was soon matching her pace. I watched them until they disappeared in the distance, and that tingling sensation I got from Purlion became smaller and smaller, until it felt like a stray hair on my forehead. A minute later, even that tickling vanished. It left me feeling hollow, as if some part of me had been scooped out. I panicked and forced myself to hold the door frame so I wouldn't run after them. Cold sweat ran down my face until I backed away. Getting out my tablet, I started to research side effects again. The experiment had just been about making a smoking effect. Just a simple mixture that would be fun to see. Since I had some time, I examined the tablet. Alana had been right, in that it only needed some time to dry out. While it was old and prone to glitches, this old device knew how to take a... No? Beating! That's the word I was looking for. And still turn on the next day. I started comparing the paper copy to the electronic, looking for any differences. It seemed like anything I could do with my tablet was now possible with the physical edition. Maybe it was my overactive imagination, but I was oddly okay with the idea of magic existing. I can now see that I was accepting it too easily and was taking the situation too lightly. If Alana were in my place, she would have been more studious and skeptical. She would have examined every page, comparing features and abilities for even the most mundane aspects before trying anything difficult. But since it was me, I started trying out random things. Cat familiar chapter? I said, and watched as the paper pages flipped to the section. The tablet screen flickered and landed on the chapter only a second after. Who knew? Paper's quicker. Paper was a little quicker, I told the device. What's the matter? Not enough battery? I placed my pinched fingers on the screen and moved them apart. The tablet zoomed as I thought it would. At the same time, the book on the table tripled in size, sending placemats and papers to the floor. Slowly, I pinched the tablet back to the default size, and sighed in relief as the paperback returned to its pocket size. Okay, paper is not as portable. Finding things and changing the size was cool, but I wanted more. What's the point of having a magic book if I can't do any magic with it? That's the point. Stretching my stiff joints, I looked around the living room. That full feeling wasn't as strong as it had been, but all I had been doing was sitting and reading. How much energy could that have burned? Flipping the paper pages, I swiped the screen in the opposite direction. They did not sync up. Well, at least I can research that way. Show me something cool. That's so vague. Most search engines would hate you. Both flipped to a section about the importance of proper storage of reagents. That got a dry laugh out of me. Can a book have a sense of humour? The pages moved and the screen flickered before returning to the warning about creating a familiar bond with a feline. Despite the humour of the situation, something stood out. Are they reacting to my words themselves or the meaning? Sighing, I began going through the book. What else could I look up? You could look up, the side effects you were supposed to be looking at my very easily distracted protagonist. There must be more to magic than just reading and making potions. Alana had superpowers, eyesight like a cat, flexibility, and abundance of energy. Purlion and I seemed to be able to talk to each other. Maybe if I read the book again, something would jump out at me. Honestly, yeah, this book has been the most accurate representation of ADHD I've seen in any media. It's been quite crazy. If magic was real, and this experience seemed to prove it, there must be more I could do. Okay, books, take me to the action spells. Something epic, like shooting lightning or moving things with my mind. Neither moved. A pop-up reading, "User access denied," appeared on the screen of the tablet. To access more advanced spells, please purchase future editions. Coming soon! The book closed itself, and the tablet powered off. Some happier you are, I told them, not stopping to think about how comfortable I was becoming with quasi-sentient books and electronics, or whatever that could mean. It is good. It is very good. The book doesn't really show it as a bad thing that they get distracted a lot. It's just something they accept, and they have like a loving relationship with it as well. So it just shows that, you can have ADHD and have like a good life. Start from scratch. In my own words floated to the forefront of my mind, and I cracked open the book to the table of contents. My past self was right, and I hated when I quoted myself, especially when that quotation led to me doing actual work. However, the haphazard approach had not exactly been predictable and repeatable success. Chapter 1, Introduction to Chemical Reactions and Stability. I read, hoping that hearing the title said out loud would help hold my attention. That lasted about one paragraph before I yawned and went for a cup of coffee. Returning, I skimmed over the chapter. Overall, it reminded me of my chemistry classes from my school days. Dry and clinical. It discussed the importance of working in a stable environment and following all the rules and warnings. I had to laugh at that point. This book posted all the warnings way after any problems would have occurred. While the first chapter was less than 10 pages, it felt like a novel. The next chapters picked up the pace, and the author's passion for the topic bled through. Chapter 2 had been about theorems and analytics. Thankfully, it had some diagrams peppered throughout to break up the walls of text, and the author added brief comments under each stating, "You might actually use this one day, but probably not. Still, you bought the book, you might as well have this." Chapter 3 was about timelines. I thought it said timeliness or something. I don't know. My brain was not reading what was on the screen. Timelines and solar and lunar cycles. This was where I learned about the witching hour and how it could impact and augment chemical reactions. The fourth chapter was titled Definitions and simply said, "See Appendix D. Definitions." I wasn't supposed to put this part here. Don't tell Esmeralda. What do you need me to help you understand? I'll help. Yes. I'm not reading that. Before I continued, I read the line again. Esmeralda? I wonder if that's the same person from the website. I mean, to me, it would be about squats? I don't know. Yeah. To me it says it's about squats, so maybe it's an advert for a gym where you will do the butt lifting and the up and down with the knees to do the squats. What was it? Esmeralda's engines? Equines? Tapping my lips with my pen, I tried to remember the alternative name for that subsite. Esmeralda's equipment. The book reacted to my words by flipping to what had once been an order form, but only the top portion remained. I mean, it would be what it says on the tin. It would be just like a gym with lots of mats and like kettlebells, and that is it. It is a gym for squats and squats alone. The section I imagined that would have been filled out was missing. Probably used decades ago by the previous owner. Maybe I could get some answers when I was back at work. It wasn't like the answer was going to come knocking or ring my doorbell, right? Then out the corner of my eye, I saw something that might provide some clues. Boxy sat against the wall, long claw marks along his side and a series of tooth marks along the flaps. In the short time he had been with us, Purlion had already claimed Boxy as a new toy. fort, and scratching post all in one. But most importantly, Boxy was a shipping box, and that meant a return address label would be attached. There might be a Come on, Kindle. There. A phone number I could call for returns and product complaints. It only took a moment for me to find the label on the top of the box, but it also only took a second to be disappointed. Purlion, in his eagerness to mark everything with his scent and remove anything that could offend him, had chewed and scratched the label into an unreadable state. The spot where you would find a return address was even missing, with incriminating teeth marks along the edge. If I was going to get the address back from Purlion, it would not be in a state I could or would want to read it. Ugh. Discouraged that my side quest didn't pan out, I went back to my book. If I couldn't learn from a box, a book would have to do. Picking up where I left off, chapter 5 was on correlation, viscosity, and effectiveness. The first line told me this was going to be a doozy. Finally, we get into the interesting stuff. In this chapter, the front was italicized. So much that I almost had to turn the book 90 degrees just to read it aloud. Just as important as getting the right ingredients, you must consider potion correlation type, mixing components, focus, and intent. All of these are necessary to a successful potion's potency. When mixing, remember that a portion of the mixer's energy seeps into the creation of infused items, such as those detailed in this book. Potion effectiveness relies on all things being in balance. Even the words you speak when creating a potion can alter the very nature of the results. Below this statement was another of the author's notes. Keeping a color-coded chemical lab system, the methods of which are described in Appendix A, can help prevent explosions and other problems. Finally, someone understands the importance of colors in chemistry, I told the book. Although you really could work on your warning systems, it would be nice to know what could blow me up before doing an experiment. The last chapter detailed the experiment I had done, but it remained written in that same blue font, something I had not noticed last night. In fact, I was positive it wasn't there. Was the distinct columns that separated the two sets of data. The first was labelled potion single, and the second was labelled tonic multiple. Single? Multiple? Like the serving sizes? I grumbled to myself. What did I make last night? A tonic or a potion? What's the difference? No sooner had the words left my mouth than the pages automatically flipped to Appendix D, where I could find a definition of potion and tonic. Potion, small dose that can be medicinal, magical, or poisonous. Poisonous? My heart skipped a beat. Maybe it was my imagination, but I swore my blood felt thicker after reading that word. Tonic. Substance with medicinal properties intended to restore or invigorate. Going back to the test experiment, I started gathering the dishes, vials, and containers I'd used last night, checking my measurements against the two columns. Then I went to the section on correlation and viscosity, trying to remember how it looked last night before it all went poof in our faces. I wish I had taken notes while I was working, and that is why you didn't do science! That is why it's just fucking about, you didn't take any notes. and found I had gained a better appreciation for why science journals had so much detail. Fucking about, mate. Time flew by as I poured through the chapters and references, gathering chemicals and placing them in neat rows, while mimicking the layout for a lab shown in Appendix A. At one point, I got tired, and the book responded by flipping to a section on red potions and the effect they could have on the bodies. A light red potion could relieve stiffness in joints and soothe aches. Going to the other extreme, a deep red potion could be smashed over a wound and aid in healing. It could also be eaten, but that might not carry the thicker material to the impacted areas. Before I knew it, I found myself quickly mixing up the ingredients to make a deep red healing paste, which looked like burgundy paint than any salve I've ever seen. It looks dreadful. I laughed. An odd feeling came over me. It started down the nape of my neck, then trickled down to my arms and into my fingertips. It was like I had pinched a nerve, but instead of a sharp pain, it was more like a warm trickle of water running over me. Nice. I set the small bowl aside, allowing them to firm up while I took a moment to study my hands. The sensation vanished as quickly as it had come, and I was panicking at the experience. And I wasn't panicking at the experience. Instead, I found myself more curious than unnerved. Rotating my neck in a slow motion, I checked myself for any injury or slight pain. When nothing happened, I made a mental note to watch for that reaction again while I rinsed my stirring spoon in a glass of water. The liquid took on a faded red hue. I wondered if that diluted the paste. I wonder if that diluted paste would form a healing tonic, or if I was now holding something toxic. Not a full dose, just a pink me up. I love it. So many puns. I said as the liquid in the glass calmed. Again, a surge of water energy trickled down my arms, setting the glass down with a loud thump. I stood upright and held my arms out in front of me. I flexed each finger, examining my arms, and even went to the bathroom mirror to check out my neck in case there were any odd marks or discoloration. Once again, I was treated to no physical change. Could I have nerve damage? But then, why would it only happen when I was talking? Am I shifting in my seat? Returning to my chair, I looked over the glassware and then to my reference materials. Based on my research, red meant restorative. It, at least on some level, could a person become too healthy and end up sick again? What classified as healing? Could a red tonic cure any poisonous effect my experiment had caused? Maybe I was getting poisoned just by touching these chemicals. No, my belief is that every time you make a pun, Purlion gets mad and you feel the effects from it. It was all too much, so I eased everything red, or even slightly that hue, aside. According to the charts, the next most frequently used potions were those with blue colorations. These were for ailments of the mind and to improve clarity. I made a bowl of thick blue salve, which had the consistency of cake frosting. I fought down my urge to take a bite, despite my stomach's insistence that it would be delicious. The entire process relaxed me, and I found my mood improving. Just as the mixture thickened, I felt compelled to comment on it. It was like a burp of forcing its way out of me, pressure that would not be denied its escape. Food for thought, or thought for food. This time, when the warm sensation hit, I wasn't unnerved by it. I was getting annoyed. Looking deep into the cool blue frosting-like material, I saw something sparkle. What is wrong with me? I asked aloud, and without Alana and Purlion around, I was forced to answer my own question. Holding up the blue-covered spoon, I took another glass of water and stirred. An idea formed in my head, and I wanted to try out a little hypothesis. When the material had washed away from my spoon, I held the glass and watched the swirling water until it nearly became still. Aww. Oh, it's nice to see you. Glad you managed to pop in. Have a good day. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Stop being nice. You said you were going. Stop being nice and piss off. Bah! Bye. Thanks and all. Cool beans and stuff. Bye. Take my Rizzuto card down now. Now the serial complimenter is leaving. I racked my brain for the right words, and just as I found them, the water steadied itself. Will this work? I'll find out in Blue Course. Great. Sure enough, that feeling of warm, trickling energy flowed down my arms. It felt small, like more was trying to flow, but was blocked by something at the source. Oh my god. Is his magic pun-based? Are colour puns how he does his magic? Yes. If that's the case, 10 out of 10, currently best book of the year. I want this to be true. I want this to be so true. I want to be able to use this joke button so many times. Let's go! I looked into the bluish water as the sensation reached my fingertips, and just for an instant I saw a flicker of something spark inside the liquid. My hands were shaking as I set the glass down, causing small bits of charged drink to spill onto the table. Then I threw my head back and screamed in sheer and utter delight. I did it! I wasn't sure how I knew, but I was certain that I had just performed a feat of magic. Of course, there was also the possibility that I had just suffered nerve damage from last night's experiment, and all I did was replicate the sensation. Somehow, there was a correlation between my wordplay, or the puns I used, and the sensation in my arms. I just knew there had to be a change into the liquid and paste. With a few more tests, I was sure I could continually replicate the results. There were several more colours and combinations, but I decided to try one more for the day. Yellow. According to the book, these were focused on energy. Unlike the other recipes where there were typical types and hues, this one only listed the mixture for a light-hued variation. A small box listed the only warning in the appendix. A yellow substance more potent than those listed here should not be attempted as a tonic, potion, or paste. See infusions and thumological concoctions for more on working with yellow. What in the world is thumological concoction? I muttered, The pages of the book flipped forward per my command. No, not when I'm in the middle of something, you stupid book. The pages slowed, drooping over until they stopped completely. A twinge of guilt in my heart hit my heart. Had I just offended the book? No, oh, sorry, book. I offered. You're not stupid, I just got overexcited. I held a finger to one corner of the page. Still friends? A little fold of paper curled up to bob my fingertip. Oh no. Feeling camaraderie with a book. I smiled a little until the realization that I was talking to a book and that it was replying sunk in. The idea made me uncomfortable, and I decided it was best to leave this mystery for another day. Right now I needed to put the giddy energy from my discovery to good use. Let's go back to yellow potions, okay? A short time later, I was mixing up a yellow concoction. I watched the materials fizz and bubble together. When it all settled, it appeared I had made a watered-down glass of lemonade. I spun the glass on the table to examine it from each side and ensured everything had dissolved. Stopping the spin, I let the contents slow. Just before it went still, I spoke. What did I just make? As I'd hoped, the warm flow occurred and a crackle of energy rippled over the surface. I let out a deep sigh. While I was excited, I also did not know what it all meant. I was also tired, like I had run several miles and was only now stopping for a breather. My head slumped forward and my eyelids fought to stay open. I wanted to write all of this down and move to the next phase of the process. All that was left was to test out what I had made. What would I try first? Healing salve? Medical potion? Maybe the blue mind frosting or the glass of mental clarity. There was also the lemony looking energy drink, and all of them would be a great taste, but the real question was, how would I test them? He's learning! You have to science, not fuck about! Sure, I could pour some onto a plant, but it wouldn't be able to tell me what was happening to it. It might be even worse if I could see a physical reaction. The last thing we needed was a meat-eating plant, or for it to have some other mutation. A talking cat was already going to be a handful. I didn't need the ficus giving me lip or eating me. The next option would be human or animal testing. That concept was not even worth considering. Last night was enough human experimentation, and I would never ask anyone else to drink a strange substance I made in my homemade lab. So, how was I going to see if my work paid off? Had I really made magic chemicals, or was I just playing with pigments? All that thinking was thirsty work. My hand instinctively reached out, and I took a sip of my drink. Two things hit me at that point. First, I did not have a drink at the table. I had purposely kept anything not related to the experiment as far away as possible to avoid a repeat of last night's events. The second thing that hit me was a bolt of crackling energy on how I was going to see if my work paid off. Had I really made magic chemical? No, wait. Yeah, okay, right. On explosions. Oh, Kindle, behave, please. a bolt of crackling energy on my lips. All I recalled was a loud pop and my lips stinging. A wave of force threw me from the table and into the living room. I hit the futon and rolled over it, crashed onto the table and rolled to a stop against the wall. To my delight and also dismay, a weak whine escaped my lips. On the plus side, I was alive and had survived 2 magical accidents brought on by my own negligence in about a 12-hour span. On the negative side, I had been in 2 explosions. Images of myself lying on the overturned furniture and groaning in pain popped into my head. Dumb. Purlion. That was a long chapter. Holy duck. I'm glad I didn't start reading that last time. Would have been here for ages. On to chapter 14. Do not try this at home. Honestly, I don't think any of this book should be tried anywhere at this rate. Marcus! Alana screamed, her footfall sounding far away. Her face filled up my vision and my head wobbled as I focused on her. I never realized quite how deep brown her eyes were. You okay? Speak to me! Don't drink the lemonade, I wheezed. Alana worked on freeing me from the rubble while Purlion sniffed in the air disgust. In the air in disgust. Sniffed the air in disgust. Yeah, reading. What were you doing? Why are your lips so puffy? She helped me onto the futon, and I fought to keep my head from spinning. Just making some potions. Took a drink of the wrong one. It had a kick to it. I wasn't sure if I was trying to be funny at that moment, or if my brain just couldn't find any other way to get my point across. Maybe it was a side effect of my potion making. That yellow stuff is basically liquid lightning, and it's in diluted form. We should really put that down a towel or something. As I battled for coherency, Alana raced around the room. She threw a towel on the table, soaking up the spilled liquid, and plopped the half-empty glass into the sink. I can't believe you, Marcus. Experimenting with potions again? After what happened last time? No, you know what? I can believe you would do that. What I can't believe is you would do it again when you're alone. She picked up more broken pieces of furniture, cleaning up the mess I had made. The way she tossed broken boards aside, it was like everything was made out of cardboard. I tried to sit up, but everything hurt, especially my back. Jeez, Marcus. We need to get you to the hospital. We should have gone already, even if the paramedics cleared us. I knew the equipment in the ambulances looked old. I bet it was out of calibration too. Her eyes were rimmed with worry. She shifted between moving towards me and going for her purse and car keys. I'm just a little sore, I lied, trying to divert her attention away from my battered state and maybe calm her down before panic could set in. Besides, I think I figured out my skills. I can make magic potions by telling them puns. Sure, my nerves feel pinched afterwards, but it runs up both arms for a bit. But it's not really that bad overall. The look on Alana's face showed me she was not taking my discovery with as much as excitement as I'd hoped. I'll get my keys, she said. Did you enjoy your run? I yelled, getting her to stop before she made it too far. Find whatever it was you were looking for? She stared at me for a long moment, breathing through her nose as she studied me. I know what you're trying to do, Marcus. You can't distract me with side topics, not this time. We are all going to get checked out. Purloin started getting queasy as we ran. It almost looked like he was getting smaller. I hit runner's wall and could not catch my breath. Coming home, I started to feel better, but we need to go for tests and take Purloin to the vet. Vet! Purloin hissed, backing away from us. No, no, no go. He arched his back and pulled a hiss of utter hatred from the depths of his soul. His shoulders arched as he backed away toward the stairs. No! He spat into my mind, bringing up images of the three-headed monster. When his hind paws touched the stairs, he whirled and swung one paw forward. Tiny razor-sharp nails sunk into the hard wood with a loud thunk. One nail caught, and Purloin tried to get free. However, it was lodged in too deep, and remained fixed in place. Panicking, he thrashed and fought, but failed to remove his paw. Wood popped and chipped from the stair. Then, with a final mighty pull, his claw cracked the plank. Before our eyes, Purlion grew until he was the size of a lion. He still looked the same, just enlarged to a great cat's proportions. Rage and fury crackled across his blue and yellow eyes. The broken piece of wood clattered to the floor in front of him. He growled, turning on us again. No. Vet! The thought repeatedly echoed in my mind. Purloin! I shouted, holding out a hand to catch his attention. My heartbeat raced. I'd seen lions and tigers before, but usually it was on TV or safely behind the bars at the zoo. This was something else. Seeing my little buddy grown into a primal prehistoric beast was terrifying. I tried to stay calm, to speak in a calm manner, but my jaw trembled. Every part of me wanted to run, but my body was in no shape to stand, let alone put any amount of safe distance between me and this creature, and this water bottle, and my throat. Purloin loomed over me, an angry predator finding defenseless prey. It's okay, buddy. No vet. Stay home. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Alana glancing at me. Purloin, she said in the same tone she used when trying to find him. Good kitty. She raised her hand, mimicking my motion, but I gave a slight headshake to stop her. Don't move. He might hurt you. As much as I wanted to get out of there, I also did not want Purloin's attention to shift from me. Even in his rage, a part of Purloin's mind registered some part of me as worthy of holding off the killing bite. The feeling was a mix of kinship and ownership. By clamping down on my exposed neck, he'd be breaking something he enjoyed. I can't say that gave me much confidence, but right then, I was glad to have any sort of buffer. Alana nodded, becoming still, and maintained eye contact with Purloin. When she spoke, it was barely above a whisper. What should we do? Is he saying anything? I'm getting a repeated message. He's tired, plus I can see what he thinks the vet is. To him, it's a place we take him to get hurt. He's feeling threatened, and now he is ready to defend himself. He doesn't understand things like doctors or medicine. Marcus, this isn't natural, Alana whispered. At that moment, I think the idea of magic being real started to register in her mind. Yeah, Ned just now? I mean, I guess she hasn't been around for some of the other magic, so I guess it makes sense. Purloin's anger pressed down on my mind, his fury pouncing on the quivering fear of my thoughts. Blood trickled from my nose as the pressure grew. My body ached, and Purloin must have felt some residual effect of that pain as he let out another hiss. I needed to stop him before he hurt himself or one of us. If he could send images and emotion to me, maybe it could be used the other way. First step, calming down. The dull pain that throbbed along our mental link. What I wouldn't do for an aspirin right now. Alana was trying to move, to position herself to help me if Purloin lost the last of his restraint. She slid ever so slightly towards the end of the futon. As she did, the light from the window glittered on the glassware. The table! Of course! Alana, I said, speaking as low and slow as I could. She made no move to look at me. Alana, I said again, still slow, but putting a bit more force behind my words. This time she cast me a glance. Do you see the glass? Yeah, she muttered in a whisper. What about it? Could you bring it to me? What is it? She stared towards the table, but when Purloin's eyes moved to her, she froze. His nose flared as he considered what to do about the standing female. It's a healing potion, I answered. I just made it. If you can give it to me, I'll drink it. That should soothe some of my pain and might calm down Purloin so I can talk to him. Alana was shaking. Marcus, I keep telling you, Purloin can't be talked to, can't be trained, and you've already blown yourself up with one potion today. You're crazy if you think I'll let you drink that stuff. Alana! I whispered and Purloin snarled over me. What other choice do we have? She stood stone still for several seconds. From my vantage point, it felt like I was waiting hours for her to decide. Then she acted, darting to the table in the blink of an eye. Purloin soared over the futon as if gravity were merely a suggestion. He plopped down between Alana and me, arching his back and letting out a furious screech. She backpedaled as Purloin's large leg came out in a white blur where she had just been behind. Liquid splattered onto the floor, and I prayed it was from the glass and not from Alana. Purloin let out a horrified screech as one of his nails caught the floorboard again. It seemed he was not yet comfortable with how much force he could use and how weak the wood was against his massive claws. Wood splintered and cracked as he fought to free his trapped nail. Alana appeared beside me, propping up my head and holding the liquid glass to my lips. As the liquid sloshed towards me, I glimpsed it just before it entered my mouth. Not the blue! Blue liquid poured down my throat, and I experienced the mother of all brain freezes. Every part of my sinuses tensed, and I learned that parts of my head I didn't know I had could hurt. I shoved Alana away, breaking off the flow with my next breath. The sensation went from squeezing pain to an icy wintergreen freshness. It was like my head was stored in a cooler filled with mint. On the other side of the futon, Purloin let out a strange "nyah" sound. I dully wondered if he ever had a brain to freeze before. It was not what I had wanted, but the momentum of his anger had been broken. I couldn't move my body, not without pain and stiffness, but I could think and let my mind wander. When the cessation of Purloin's mind touching against mine registered, I started thinking about our home, about sleeping in my bed. I imagined how warm the light was that came in through the front window, and how soft The fur was behind Purloin's ears. Safe. Home. No vet. No vet? The lion-sized Purloin asked, plodding over to the end of the futon. The anger that had been pushing against me ebbed. His mind still shook with a deep fear, but the fury wasn't burning in his mind. Instead, Purloin was mentally circling me, looking for a trick or some kind of weakness I was hoping to exploit against him. I swallowed hard and raised one hand. Needles of pain shot up and down my arm, but I focused on maintaining the link and staying calm. On separating my body from the mind, Purloin licked his lips, showing off his dagger-sized teeth as he took a cautious step towards my upturned hand. It's funny the things you think about when you're looking down the muzzle of a massive predator. Everyone talks about how their life flashes before their eyes, about how they see loved ones and long-lost friends, or about dreams they would never see come to fruition. For me, one image came to mind, and I could not make myself think of anything else. It was the first time I held Purloin, when he had fallen from under my car after his undercarriage adventure and stalked up to me, demanding attention. I remembered how small but fierce he had seemed. Small? He stopped, his long white fangs merely inches from my face. Another series of images flipped across my mind. Purloin as a kitten sleeping in my lap, the grand climb to his tower looking out the window into the courtyard, his ability to squeeze under anything to escape my reaching hands. Lion Purloin looked at himself. Big! Taking a chance, I stroked the fur on his neck. I hoped that if he did panic, I could at least push his jaw away from me. But even with Purloin distracted, there was no give in his frame. Small, I echoed aloud. Little Purloin. My kitten. Large eyes shifted to me. Moving my hand behind his ear, I scratched that spot Purloin just couldn't reach on his own. He closed his eyes, and pleasure trickled into his mind. Big, he whispered through the connection. No, small, I repeated, continuing to scratch. Alana looked to me, and I nodded towards his tail. She ran her nails along the base of his tail, where it met the spine, and scratched. Small kitty, she echoed. While I could feel Purloin's annoyance at Alana's intrusion, the pleasure of getting petted overcame the agitation. We continued to pet him, and as I encouraged him to think about being small. Blue and green mist wafted off him in small tendrils, matching the smoke from the experiment. Slowly, Purloin shrank until he reached his original size. Alana stopped her massage, and I reduced my speed until Purloin opened his eyes and met mine. Small, Purloin repeated. He looked at us, shifting his gaze between Alana and me. There was a tinge, just the smallest of a speck of respect in that view. Maybe, just maybe, there was even a hint of embarrassment behind it, although I doubted Purloin would ever admit that to anyone. With the crisis averted, Alana let out a long sigh. Okay, this is getting nuts. If we're going to be living with magic or whatever has happened to us, we need to be smarter. We can't be freaking out. She looked at Purloin, but the tremor in her voice gave away her own feeling. That will require safe and controlled testing. Use the proper tools to test this and conduct research. That was Alana. She might panic, but she was quick to make a plan. Purloin curled up on my chest, trying to settle in for a nap. Oh. Must have been tiring being so big. Now he's small. Small. Before we do anything else, I groaned, hand me the red drink. Chapter 15. Oh, that was really sweet, actually. Trying to like get through to the cat. I feel like the writing of the cat Purloin in general is really good because cats. It's not that cats don't love you. It's just that they love themselves a lot. They've got a lot of pride. And I don't know. The bond between main boy and cat is wonderful. That was very soft, and I loved all of that. It was very good. I love my cat. I want to go see my cat right now. But first we must read! The red potion worked as promised, healing my aching and battered body. I was in no shape to run a marathon. Not that I ever could, mind you, but I wasn't in miserable amounts of pain either. However, I soon discovered that drinking blue and red mixtures within a short amount of time of each other had gaseous side effects. I wish I had been only belching. At least that would have made the ride to the hospital more pleasant. Looking back, I'm not sure if it was good fortune or a cruel twist of fate, but our hospital visit was quick and uneventful. Although it still took until the middle of the afternoon, because hospitals. Alana told them about our smoke inhalation, referencing the police report from the previous night, and how we had experienced a shock. The doctor examined my head, and I told her about the loss of consciousness and the nerve pains. She ran tests and gave me some fluids, but everything came back negative. Medically speaking, I was normal. More tests were run in a few weeks, but for now, she could find nothing wrong with me. The same results came in for Alana. With clean bills of health, we went home. The doctors advised I take a week off work to rest up, since I was a mess of bruises and sores. I took that as a win, while Alana thought I was just looking for an excuse to be lazy. I mean, it's a week off work. Sounds fucking great. Purloin greeted us before leaping onto his tower for his routine nap. The morning's events must have really worn him out, because he did not even lift his head when I gave him lunch. Alana looked over the paperwork from the hospital, displeased at our clean bills of health. This makes absolutely no sense. There must be some change, something measurable. How long did they tell you before the blood work comes back? A couple days? Maybe a week? That long? I could have run these tests in a few hours if I had my lab. With a groan, she slapped the papers down, only to pick them back up and review the contents once again. You know what? No. She grabbed her keys and gave me a determined look. I still have my lab, even if it might only be for a little while longer. Alana, I protested. It's been a long enough day. Why don't we just calm down now and relax? Or make more potions. Relax, she shouted, a manic energy in her eyes. How can I relax, Marcus? We've been exposed to strange chemicals, started having crazy behavioral and psychological changes, and might even be in legal trouble for having that vial. True, I stammered, but wouldn't going to work to use the lab equipment be even more illegal? Picking up the red book, I tapped the cover for emphasis. I'm sure the answers are all in here. Sure, it might be written by a crazy person, or probably by the whole asylum, but the experiment did something. There must be an answer in here. She looked at me, then at the book before shaking her head. For a moment I thought she might hiss at it. I don't trust that book. Nothing good has happened since it showed up, but I trust the scientific method. What about me? You trust me? I gave her a reassuring smile. Alana shook her head. I do, Marcus. I really do, but not with this. We need a lab and proper equipment if we are going to figure this out. Not just fanciful theories. I swallowed my disappointment and gave a weak laugh. Don't you mean hypotheses? She laughed and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. I love you, Marcus. Let me do this for us. While you and Purlion stay here, I think it's time to toss all this junk and move on from all this craziness. No more conducting experiments, alright? Yeah, totally, brah. That's gonna happen. Giving Alana a slight bob of my head, I looked over my scattered supplies. I'll get started cleaning and put some stuff back in the storage room. Heck, this might just be the motivation I need to finally make my workstation in the storage room for all my other projects. She smiled, gave my arm a quick squeeze, and then was out the door. The car pulled out of our parking lot. I started gathering up the mess I had made. Occasionally my eyes would rest on a note or drawing I was scribbling. Thoughts began bubbling to the surface as I tried to put the house in order. Is it even possible to go back to the way things were before last night? The experiment altered my brain. I could now talk to Purlion. I suppose I could always hide that as just being really in tune with my pet. Purlion huffed in disgust at the notion that I outranked him. Alana's alterations were physical in nature. She was more agile, able to do a backflip from a standing position. Her eyesight was nearly perfect. She could see even the slightest movement or tiniest flaws on something. Plus, her other senses had become enhanced, which helped her not burn the eggs and season the food to an excellent level of taste. Hearing her upstairs, I began wondering what else about her may have changed. Would she sleep all day like Purlion? How cat-like had Alana become? A chilling thought bubbled in my mind. Could she eventually become a cat? Could I? How much more could we change? Was all of this magic, or some kind of old science that mankind had forgotten? A part of me still wanted it to be magic, even after everything we had been through so far. We still didn't know what the chemical was, or understand the full extent of what it would do to us. My stomach gurgled. What other effects could all of the other potions I drank have on me? The tests might not have shown us being affected, but maybe that was simply because we were changing in ways that no tests could identify? Dumb, Purlion groggily put into my head, then drifted back to sleep. Thoughts of mouse and insect hunts playing in a loop in the back of my mind. With too many questions left unanswered, I would not give up just because things got complicated. There was work to be done today. I pointed to the stairs. Come, faithful Purlion, to the lab. Oh, that was quite a short chapter. I feel like the fact that this character clearly has ADHD is actually helping them deal with Purlion in the back of their head as well. Because Purlion's just another tab in that many tabs open ADHD thing they've got going. So they can actually deal with the extra bleh. Because their brain is normally a mess. "9% to go. And we'll be finished. Done." It turns out Purlion was not faithful, or at least not willing to follow me. As I went upstairs to the storage room, he merely rolled over and continued his nap. I mean, what did he was never gonna wake up from his nap for this. I mean, I wouldn't. Absolute mood. He didn't even take the time to insult me or trying to make him move. Instead, he mumbled something into my head. Alana would call it being grumpy, but I found it kinda cute that cats could mutter. Alana made me promise not to conduct any more experiments, and I planned on keeping my word. However, the loophole in that logic was I could still do things relating to the topic. Case in point, I was going to renovate the spare bedroom into a magical lab. Well, renovate might be too strong a word. What I was going to do was move some shelves around and bring everything related to our project upstairs. It was a little smaller than our bedroom, but instead of a bedroom furniture, it was filled with old folding tables and shelves of various heights. All the odds and ends I'd collected over the years. The room was also a haven for new species of dust bunnies. Throwing open the window, I took a deep breath of clean late afternoon air. I really should have set up everything in here from the start. For the rest of the day, I dusted off counter space, moved boxes from makeshift workspaces, stubbed my toe multiple times on oversized pickling jars, and organized my collection of random things into something resembling storage. A place for everything. I picked up a bulk of miscellaneous items and dropped it behind another row of boxes. And everything out of sight. The small desk I had been using to store boxes looked more like a real science lab. Vials, beakers, glassware, and chemicals were all lined up in neat rows, with plenty of workspace still available. In the box of cookbooks, I found an old spice rack that made a great makeshift container for powders and small containers. By the time I hung it mostly straight on the wall, it made 3 separate holes in the wall. Still, it now offered me somewhere to house containers that Purlion might decide to knock off the table. Even if I explained why he shouldn't do it, he was still a cat. No more reaching over the other components to find what I needed. I even cleared enough space to take notes and have either my book or the tablet on the surface. All of the remaining room's clutter was now stored in piles. Doom piles, you might say. All that was left was to bring up the potions and salves I had already made yesterday and wash up. I trotted down the stairs. A prickling sensation raced across the front of my brain. It was coupled with a series of images of me running under beds, tables, and futons. Hunter! The images that followed were of eyes looking out of the bushes, large dogs from the neighbourhood, and Purlion's distorted image of a veterinarian. Multiple bangs came from the front door, which nearly flew off its hinges with each blow. Is that another delivery? Maybe it's someone about that delivery yesterday. Good. Then I can get some answers from them. I'm not in any good mood to be pushed around. Grabbing the vial of strange liquid, I headed to the door with determination. If this person was trying to give me an earful about accepting a package meant for a company, or that I should have corrected them on delivering here instead of them taking it to Wonderland Pharmaceuticals, then they were going to answer my questions. As I opened the door, I had my game face on. I held up the strange vial, so that the first thing this person would see is my grim expression and the empty container. The figure on the other side of the door was not a delivery man from yesterday. Solomon stood like a monolith in the front of my door, tall, unmoving, and with an aura of ages-old menace. Seeing him in sunlight felt wrong, and I understood why Purlion had thought a predatory beast was outside. He must have heard Solomon approaching and ran. I wish I could have done the same. Hey, Solomon, I said in my best cheery voice, extending my free hand and lowering the vial as quickly as I could. I didn't know you made house calls. Is Mr. Payne with you? Was that order? Solomon's giant hand covered mine, and he pressed something into it. When he pulled away, I could see he had given me a vial wrapped in a sticky note. The same vial and note I left on my desk. He inhaled sharply, waiting for me to speak. From his uniform's front pocket, he pulled out Vincent Payne's platinum card, just enough to send a message. Based on my limited understanding of how moving walls speak, I figured he must have been telling me, I went to get the card and found these things. Answers now, or I break you. As I looked into the large vacant eyes, my friendly smile faded. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end, and Purlion sent images of going under the bed, jumping into boxes or running behind shelves. Hide! Fighting my unease, I forced myself to at least appear jovial. Maybe it was my imagination, but I could have sworn the wind had died down and my neighbourhood had suddenly gone silent. I know this looks bad, but it's actually nothing. Kind of a funny story, really. I have some questions about that stuff I ordered for Mr. Payne. See, one vial fell out last night? I held up the empty vial and saw the big man's eyes open wider. That was the first hint of emotion I had ever seen on his face. A small part of me hoped that meant this could be solved easily, and that Solomon would go away. I did not like the thought of him knowing where I lived, and especially did not like the idea of him being at my home. I was going to bring it in first thing Monday. I guess I could have gone in with Alana since she's at work right now, but one thing led to another, and the experiment went. My words died in my throat as Solomon reached out, grabbed me by the neck with one thick hand. He lifted me off my feet as if I was made out of styrofoam and squeezed. Got it all wrong, I gasped. I stole nothing, I didn't. Purlion meowed from under the futon, fear flooding my brain. Not that I needed help from being afraid right now. I whispered, but he remained safely hidden. There was no rational way he would justify attacking something as large as Solomon. The big man scanned my home, looking for whoever I had been talking to, in case he had to silence any other witnesses. Not seeing anyone, he turned his focus on me. His head tilted, as if he was expecting something, or thought I could reply while being strangled. If I could just break his hold, I might find something to defend myself with, or at least cause enough of a ruckus to get someone's attention. Some part of me laughed. Ruckus. Alana's right, I really should update my vocabulary. A light went on in my brain, but thankfully, it wasn't the one at the end of life's tunnel. Vocab. Words. Puns. Wait. I wheezed, trying to pull open Solomon's vice-like grip. Sentences were impossible. All I could do was spit out a syllable at each time. My vision blurred. The faint whine of my words seeped out. Line. Potion. Sleep. Solomon continued to glower, his eyes smouldering with contempt as he looked me over. But he eased his grip, enough for me to suck in a little breath. Air had never tasted so sweet, and my lungs filled with a shuddering inhale, even with my windpipe no longer being actively compacted. Getting out every word was still a force of will. I had to choose them all carefully. the next sentence I uttered could very well end my life. Knocked me out. Made me cat-a-tonic. Power erupted through me, starting from the nape of my neck down through my arms and legs. It was as if, for the first time in my life, I was truly awake and alert. Solomon's grip broke as the smell of burning flesh wafted from his massive palms. He staggered back, and I wasn't sure if he was more confused by what I said or what happened. The surge of power surprised me as well, but that answer would have to wait. My words hadn't been for Solomon. I could have talked all day and not bothered him. Purlion, however, hated puns. The tingling of panic and fear at the base of my skull flickered, like a radio struggling to maintain signal. From behind me, there was a loud thud of more furniture toppling over, and I prayed it wasn't another of Alana's cerematic figures. When a white-coated comet soared at my back, falling to the ground, I left Solomon at the center of the missile's trajectory. Purlion, now having grown to a lion's size once again, collided with the colossal man. The two flew off the porch, with Solomon taking the full brunt of the assault and landing hard on the concrete. Purlion sprang off him at the last moment, landing a few feet away. Solomon let out a grunt, which sounded more surprised than hurt. Still, I was happy to hear something fazed the homicidal giant. Purlion had already turned and was moving on his opponent. "Fight!" he growled into my mind. I wasn't sure if Purlion realized I had tricked him into getting mad, but right now I was happy to have the time to breathe and stand up. My legs felt like they had been replaced with broken lead weights. Purlion pounced, shoving his claws into Solomon's shoulders. The large man growled back, an unnatural rattling sound, and grabbed the cat's legs, trying to free himself from the pin. Purlion flexed his claws, digging the dagger-like nails deeper into his enemy. The slow, steady growl rumbled through the massive cat, just before he lunged at Solomon's exposed throat. Solomon grasped Purlion's jaws, stopping the glistening fangs just before they could close on his flesh. As the two titanic creatures battled, I got to my legs under me and rose to my feet. Still dizzy, I looked around for anything to help Purlion fight off Solomon. Nothing stood out. No knives, heavy pans, or tools were in sight. I plodded forward a few steps, nearly falling over as I coughed for breath until I collapsed on the counter. Looking into my sink, maybe there was something I could use. Something we just hadn't cleaned and put away. But all that was in the sink was a nearly empty glass and a wet dish towel. A wet dish towel covered in explosive energy juice! Grabbing the cloth, I twisted the thick stream of liquid into the empty glass. Behind me, Purlion howled in pain. Solomon had twisted the cat's legs and threw him aside with a deep grunt. Purlion was righting himself, his legs twitching at the fresh injury as he tried to adapt. The big man stepped forward and swung his massive fist at the cat's head, and there was a wet crunch before Purlion fell over. No! Purlion! Shards of pain assaulted my brain. My eyes burned as tears ran down my cheeks. My heart wrenched until I thought it might rip free from my chest. I was in misery that my brain could hardly comprehend, but my heart immediately could identify. Purlion was dying. No! And I was feeling every moment as if it happened to me. No! Red paste, no! Reaching the door, I let out a scream as I came running out the door at full speed, brandishing the wrung towel in one hand and the glass of yellowy water in the other. You've done enough damage, Solomon. You're going to pay, and you better have cash. That's so lame, bro. He turned to look at me, long red streaks coming from his shoulders where Purlion's claws had been. Despite his injuries, he looked more annoyed by this battle than concerned. My left arm swung back, letting the towel crack like a whip. He looked at my weapon and brought up a large arm to easily counter my pending attack. Instead of bringing the towel forward, I let it drop and tossed the liquid contents of my glass forward. Just as the liquid hit his face, power surged through my body once again. Never mind, you can charge it. The liquid splashed over Solomon, and for once in the last few days, there was an explosion that was not centered on me. Starting as a pop, like when a light bulb blew, it expanded to a rush of pure force. The wave of energy knocked me flat on onto my back and hurled Solomon backwards and then through his car. Metal was crushed, glass broke, and tires let out an ear-piercing screech as the car was pushed across the concrete. Yeah, my voice cracked. That's your punishment for messing with Marcus. Kyle, Magus Pun HT. I love this book, 10 out of 10. Pun HD. Admittedly, that wasn't the best. It was the best trash talking. What are you doing, book? It was the best trash talking I've ever read. Admittedly, that wasn't the best trash talking I could have done, but overall I'd say it wasn't too bad for my first victory speech. Rolling to my feet, I looked at Purlion. Blood poured out of his ears, and his tongue hung out. No, don't you dare be bad to the kitty. Looking more purple than it should, I knelt before him, tears welling in my eyes. You stupid cat! Why? Protect my kitten. It's bullshit when people say cats don't love you. Purlion sent images into my mind, showing me all the times he had tried to instruct me in the art of being a cat. These were all from before the time when I could understand him, back when he had thought I was just a fellow feline who didn't know the rules. He thought that he could be the dumb one. The thought that he could be the dumb one made him chuckle. His gigantic eyes flickered towards me, where Solomon had been moments ago. You, cat now. A feeling of peace seeped into my thoughts. His mission felt completed, and now it was time for a rest. A nice long rest. I swear to God. This is a comedy book. I swear to God, if this cat dies, I'll cry. I'm nearly crying already. Stay here, buddy. Don't move. I'll get help. I'll get medicine? He sent me images of him being forced to take pills and the struggles I faced when forcing them down his throat. I ran back to the house, trying to think of what I could do. His skull looked cracked. My cat was broken, and I didn't have the skills to fix him. All I could do was break things, blow them up, blow myself up. My only success seemed to have been mixing potions. Potions! The paste! I knew it. I knew he'd come to this, but I was still sad. Tossing aside various vials and bottles, I scoured the table until I found a small bowl filled with red paste. This has to work, I told myself as I flew out the door. The paste was thick and crusting over. I should have put a cover on it. This might be dried out. My heart broke as I applied it to the bloody wound marring Purlion's white fur. He growled and hissed as I administered the red goop, sending me several messages showing me how much he hated this, and, by extension, me. It was hard to see where I was applying the deep red paste, as it was the same hue as the blood on his fur. The tears pouring out my eyes also blurred my vision. Ah! I hissed, wiping at my eyes as I tried to focus on the injured area. Some of my medical goo got in my eyes, making it even harder to see as it mixed with hot tears and gave my vision a crimson hue. No words came out as my mind tried to think up a pun to add to the potency of the paste. But that surge of power from earlier had faded, and now I was drained. Something had opened inside of me in my moment of panic, but now there was no gas left in my tank. I don't know how long I knelt there rubbing paste into Purlion's wounds. Besides being partly blinded, the pain I was experiencing secondhand from our mental link provided a constant sense of urgency to my actions. After what felt like hours, but realistically could have been more than seconds, I no longer felt the sharp lines of cracked bones along my fingers. That means the medicine is working now, right? The wound is closed? Purloin's coarse tongue lapped across my hand, like wet sandpaper across my skin. With my blurry and tinted vision, I turned to him and forced myself to smile. You okay now? Good as new, buddy? My body shook. I blinked to clear my eyes. Up! With one last wipe of my eyes, I could finally focus on his face. Treats? I offered, hoping food might motivate him to get up. Purlion blinked twice at me, then closed his eyes. Relief washed over my mind. The pain from the injury was replaced by mild euphoria as Purlion let out a long, tired sigh. His breathing slowed, and our link became calm. Then it went quiet. His chest no longer rose or fell. Standing up, I clasped my hands over my eyes, unable to hold back my tears. I had done everything right. I stopped the monster and healed my companion. So why was he not moving? Something sharp dug into my ankle, needle-like daggers burrowing into my uninjured foot. Imagination. Purlion, who had shrunk himself back to his original size, was now wrapped around one of my feet, his teeth digging into my ankle. Dragging him off me and leaving long red lines on my leg, I gave him a big hug. My brain flipped between anger and joy as I embraced both my squeezing and my protesting cat. Embraced both by squeezing and the protesting cat. Affection was never Purlion's strong suit. That's not how imagination works. I tried to laugh, but it came out as a muffled hack. I reached out and scratched Purlion's ears. He gave my hand a polite lick in reply. Eventually he flailed free of my hand and trotted back into the house. Food! As he retreated, I turned my attention to the wrecked car, or at least I looked to where the car Solomon had rocketed into should have been. Because in place of the disseminated hunk of metal and broken glass with the body of a giant on top of it, there was nothing. Nada. Zippo. Zilch. Where'd Solomon and the car gone? Why weren't the neighbors running out with all the noise? Police sirens should be getting louder already. Instead, I was standing outside of my townhouse looking at a perfectly normal parking lot. My hands trembled. Had I imagined the fight with Solomon? The aching in my throat told me I had been choked. But could that be an effect of the potions I've been drinking? Was all this nerve damage or a mental breakdown? I'm not sure how long I stood outside looking into the night. trying to find the hulking giant that had attacked me and Purlion, and to locate the mangled remains of his car. But night had fully fallen when I went inside. I knew what happened was real, and that I wasn't crazy. One thing became certain in my mind as I shut the door behind me. Alana was wrong. We couldn't put all of this behind us. Something big was going on, something bigger than her, than me, and even Solomon himself. Alana might be on the right track with her research, but I didn't need to just sit back and let her do everything. I had been looking at things from the wrong perspective. The Little Red Book hadn't been a fun read on feline tricks. It was serious reading. Time for me to turn some pages. Me every time I start a new book. Oh no, we're at the epilogue. We're at the end. I suppose we are on 99% now. Aww. This has been such a good book. I suppose I'll gush about it. We'll gush about it after I've finished. Gush about it after. First, we have a small drink. And I recover from my tears. How dare Purlion nearly die? It's so rude. I'm protecting his kitten. Oh, fuck. Ugh. Nice cats, bro. Purlion is truly the best cat. We've answered the question. Purlion is best cat. Except for my cat, obviously. I'm going to stop you there, the woman behind the lights announced. We need to listen to someone else for a bit. But I haven't gotten to the most relevant part that got us here, Marcus offered. Yes, and that's why we are changing speakers, another voice chimed in. This one still muffled by the modulator, but more eager and excited. All you've told us about is your introduction to magic story. Everyone knows that magic is the first language. And puns are language at its peak. Yes, they are! Correct! Marcus's mouth dropped. What? How do you know? Never mind that now, Magus. We'd like to speak to the cat if you don't mind. Oh my god, is the second book going to be entirely from Purlion's perspective? If that's the case, heck yes. Marcus coughed into his hand. I just told you he can speak only to me. I could translate if you'd like. That won't be necessary, the first voices started. We will take our chances. Please move the cat's chair to the microphone and take a seat by Miss Kim. Purlion meowed his concern as the chair was moved in front of the microphone. A quiet chirp escaped his mouth as he peered at the human male. I know, buddy, Marcus said, trying to comfort the cat. They just want you to tell your story. Giving the cat a nod, he added, Yes, I'm aware. I know you don't want to. The white cat shifted on his pillow before looking at the microphone with concern. 2 steps away, Marcus stopped and sighed. Yes, you can have a treat after this. Just hurry it up before they get mad. Purlion let out a sad exhale, concerned that Marcus might not keep his promise. Okay, kitty, the voice called. Please begin. Shifting his shoulders, Purlion meowed. Marcus grasped his head and staggered to one knee. Marcus! Alana left her chair, racing to her fiancé. Miss Kim, please return to your seat, the voice commanded. We need you all to stay put while we sort. My fiancé is in pain, she hissed, helping Marcus back to his feet. We don't exactly have a lot of time. You know what happened already, and you know what's out there. I told you already, we need proper medical attention. Not to be playing 20 questions with shadows and flashlights. It's alright, Alana, Marcus winced, staggering back to 1 foot. It was just a lot to take in at once. Help me to a chair and I'll be okay. Purlion meowed, concern in his voice. Yes, buddy, I'm alright. enough to, like, I'm alright enough to let you get your treat later, don't worry. Letting out a pleased sniff, Purloin watched his humans take their seats and looked back at the microphone. It was time for his tale to begin. Betrayal. And that's it! That's it! Who betrayed you, Purloin? Did Marcus betray you? Did he not give you food when you asked? I have a feeling that's how Purloin would view all this, because it started with forgetting to feed Purloin. And that is a heinous betrayal to catkind. Oh, 1 second, big stretch. Oh, that was such a fun book. And you know what? Now we've read it, we get to do this thing here, while we do this. Yes! So we have just read Cat-a-tonic, Marcus Misadventures Book 1 by Jeremy M. Moore. And it's been such a good little adventure. It's just one of the best representations of ADHD I've ever seen. The main character just has a lot of ADHD, and it's just represented really nicely, but it's not looked down upon as a character. That's just who he is. It's part of who he is. He has a wonderful relationship with his fiancée, and they would just work around it. She accepts that that's part of who he is. And it's wonderful. I think that's a really good bit of representation there. I also love the representation of the cat and how the cat communicates in it. And the cat's relationship with our main character, Marcus. Because obviously a cat's relationship is a little bit different to how a dog sees it. Most cats do see us as big, stupid cats, and that's brought along really well. It's really funny. I think it could have used more puns, honestly. That's the one thing I am disappointed about, is that the title is pun, and there's not that many puns in the book. There should be more puns! And that is my only complaint. And for the sake of the clip I'm going to make of this, I have read this book in full on my channel. Link in the description if you want to buy it. Link in the description if you want to watch me read it. Thank you very much for the clip. Yay. Oh wait. My books until that goes down. 9,981! We've read 19 books since we started this. And 5 of those have been this year, and I'm quite impressed. I am terrified at how many books we're actually going to get to by the end of the year. So, what's going to happen next Sunday, you ask? Well, next Sunday is I will be able to stream, and then after that Sunday, I'm going on break for like 2 weeks. It won't be the full week after that. Like, I'll be able to stream my Monday, Tuesday sort of time, but I won't be able to stream Sunday for 2 weeks after that, due to finding a very lovely tropical resort-like place in the library. And you know what? I'm just gonna go there for a week and have a break. That's my plan. So, because I'm gonna be on break for 2 weeks after next week, I don't want to start another book fresh. So I thought, I do have permission from J Novel Club to read their previews, and only their previews online. So I thought we could read a preview of a light novel. So I selected a few. I'll put a poll on my YouTube and probably on Twitter as well. And you guys can choose what you would like me to read next Sunday. I've picked 3. I picked A Sentence of a Bookworm, which is one I've always been kind of interested in. The anime's been really good so far, and it's about books and stuff, so I mean, what's not to like? I've picked I Shall Survive Using Potions, which was recently announced to be getting an anime, so I just thought that would be interesting, a little bit more topical right now. And in choosing things that are topical, I also picked Misfit of the Demon King Misfit of Demon King Academy. Anos Voldy-Chad himself. It is currently airing at the moment, although it has been delayed thanks to production, because, you know, everything has this bloody season. So yeah, I will put a poll up, and I will read about anywhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours worth of the preview next Sunday. Other than that, Thank you, Luke, for appearing in the chat. Thank you for anyone who may have lurked, and thank you for anyone who watches the VOD. If you could leave likes and sub if you enjoyed, that would be lovely. Anything else? No, nothing else. I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Bryony Rose Smith, live from the Forbidden Library. Yeah, hi, Master Trader. You're welcome. I hope you had fun. Goodbye.